We live in a world obsessed with outcomes. We're told to chase titles, to build resumes, to accumulate wealth, as if success is a finish line. And yet, when people look back on their lives, when they stand at the edge and reflect, very few speak of their titles or bank balances. They talk about moments, relationships, regret, purpose. Why? Because we often learn too late what actually matters. We spend the early part of our lives climbing ladders, corporate ladders, social ladders, never stopping to ask, is this ladder leaning on the right wall? By the time we realize what we missed, we're already at the top, and it's lonely. See, what we miss isn't the knowledge, it's the wisdom. And wisdom isn't found in books or tweets. It's found in quiet moments, in stillness, in listening to voices that aren't shouting for attention. It's found in conversations with people who have lived, not just existed. There's a common thread among those who've truly made an impact, not just in business or innovation, but in life. They lived with a sense of responsibility greater than themselves. They knew that real strength comes from humility. That leadership isn't about control, it's about service. That fulfillment isn't found in having more, but in giving more. So here's the truth. Most people only realize when they're older, your life is not measured by what you've achieved. It's measured by what you've contributed. It's measured in how you made people feel. It's measured in whether you used your influence to lift others or just yourself. It's measured in whether you chose courage over comfort, purpose over popularity. But here's the good news. You don't have to wait until it's too late. You can choose now. You can choose to ask the bigger questions. You can choose to seek a life of meaning, not just metrics, because the most powerful legacy is not found in monuments. It's found in people, in lives touched, in hearts changed, in love given freely without agenda. We don't need to reach the end to start living right. We just need to pause and realign. And when we do, success stops being the goal. It becomes a byproduct of a life well lived. Let me know if you want this turned into a script for voice over YouTube or a reel. We live in a world that often celebrates achievement more than alignment. We're taught from a young age that success is the ultimate goal, that our worth is tied to how much we do, how high we rise, and how much we can accumulate. This way of thinking is so deeply embedded in our culture that most people never question it. They chase titles, accolades, and recognition with the belief that once they get there, wherever there is, they'll finally feel fulfilled. But what many people learn, often too late, is that fulfillment doesn't come from success alone. It comes from aligning our lives with something deeper: purpose, humility, and service to others. The real tragedy is not that people don't find success, it's that they achieve it and still feel empty. Because success without meaning is a hollow victory. When your energy is poured entirely into climbing the ladder, there's little time to stop and ask if it's even the right ladder. You can build the most impressive resume in the world, but if it's disconnected from your values, your passions, and your desire to serve something greater than yourself, you will always feel like something is missing. And that missing piece doesn't show up in your 20s or 30s. It reveals itself quietly in moments of stillness, in the questions that come late at night, or in the loneliness that creeps in even when you're surrounded by admiration. There is a subtle but vital difference between a life of achievement and a life of fulfillment. Achievement is externally validated. It's about what the world sees and applauds. Fulfillment, on the other hand, is deeply internal. It's the sense of peace that comes from knowing you're living in alignment with who you truly are and what you're meant to do. That kind of peace isn't flashy. It doesn't trend online, but it lasts. It roots you. It steadies you when the world gets loud and the path becomes uncertain. Too many people discover this after years of chasing shadows. They find themselves successful by every external standard, career, money, status, but struggling to find joy, struggling to connect, struggling to feel alive. That's because fulfillment can't be achieved by accident. It requires intention, it requires reflection, and most of all, it requires service. The most fulfilled people are rarely the ones with the most. They are the ones who give the most of their time, their talent, their presence. They understand that legacy isn't about being remembered. It's about making others feel seen, valued, and empowered while you're here. And yes, humility plays a key role in all of this. Because without humility, we begin to believe the lie that our success is purely self-made, that we are the center of our own universe. But humility reminds us that we're part of something bigger, that we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us, and that our impact is multiplied when we help others rise. True greatness is never about one person standing above the rest. It's about one person lifting others up so that everyone can rise together. We learn too late that it's not about how much we get, but how much we give. Not how much we know, but how deeply we care. Not how fast we move, but how clearly we understand where we're going and why. That why matters. It anchors us. And when our lives are aligned with that why, with purpose, humility, and service, everything changes. The success we achieve doesn't just benefit us, it becomes a force for good, a ripple that touches lives beyond our own. So the real invitation here is simple, yet powerful. Don't wait. Don't wait until the end to start asking the right questions. Don't wait for regret to open your eyes. Choose alignment over achievement now. Choose depth over speed. Choose a life that means something, because fulfillment is not a destination, it's a direction. And the sooner we point ourselves toward it, the more meaningful our journey becomes. Your life is not measured by what you've achieved. It's measured by what you've contributed. We grow up being told to aim high, to dream big, to push ourselves toward achievement, and that's not inherently wrong. Ambition can be a beautiful thing, but somewhere along the way, many of us begin to believe that the value of our life is defined solely by how much we can accomplish. We equate personal worth with productivity, happiness with hustle, and meaning with milestones. The world reinforces this belief every step of the way. Awards, promotions, salaries, and social media likes all send the message that the more you achieve, the more you matter. But achievement without contribution is ultimately an empty metric. The truth is, no matter how many trophies we collect, they cannot speak for the kind of person we were. Our greatest impact isn't in the titles on our RA sum, but in the lives we touch through kindness, through empathy, through giving. When people speak at funerals, they don't list accomplishments like a LinkedIn profile. They speak about love, generosity, encouragement, presence. They talk about how someone made them feel seen, safe, inspired. That's what lasts. That's what's remembered. And that's what truly measures a life contribution. Is not just about grand gestures or public philanthropy. It's in the everyday decisions to show up for someone, to offer a listening ear, to help without expecting anything in return. It's in mentoring someone quietly behind the scenes, sharing wisdom freely, giving time when it would be easier to walk away. These are the moments that shape legacy, not in the headlines, but in the hearts of those we serve. We all have something to contribute, regardless of status, wealth, or background. Sometimes the most powerful contribution is simply being present. In a world that moves too fast, being fully there for someone, really listening, really caring, is a rare and powerful gift. When we shift our focus from asking, what can I gain, to what can I give? our life begins to shift to. We begin to see ourselves not just as individuals chasing success, but as part of a larger human story. And in that story, our role is not just to win, but to build, to elevate, to serve. This doesn't mean abandoning your goals or letting go of ambition. It means letting contribution guide your ambition. Ask yourself, am I building something that benefits more than just me? Am I creating space for others to thrive? Am I using my platform, no matter how big or small, to be a voice for something bigger than myself? The paradox is that when we focus on contribution, fulfillment often follows naturally because we're wired to matter, not just to ourselves, but to each other. The deepest sense of joy and purpose comes when we realize that our existence added something valuable to the lives of others, that we made someone's burden lighter, that we offered hope, healing, or simply a moment of peace. And even though the world may not always recognize it, you will know, you'll feel it, because deep down we all crave a life that's not just successful, but significant. And significance comes from contribution, not from applause or attention, but from the quiet knowledge that we left the world a little better than we found it. So measure your life not in what you gather, but in what you give. Not in what you built for yourself, but in what you built for others. Because that is what endures. That is what multiplies. That is what matters. We don't need to reach the end to start living right. We just need to pause and realign. So many of us are moving fast. We're running towards something. Goals, success, approval, security. But rarely do we stop to ask whether we're running in the right direction. Life becomes a blur of deadlines, responsibilities, and expectations. And somewhere in that motion, we lose connection to what really matters. We assume we'll figure it out later. That someday, when things calm down or when we've made it, we'll have the time and clarity to live the way we truly want to. But too often that moment never comes. And when it does, it's at a point when time has become more limited, not more abundant. The truth is, we don't have to wait until a crisis forces us to reevaluate. We don't have to wait until we're burned out, broken, or facing loss to start asking the deeper questions. Is this the life I want to live? Am I proud of the direction I'm heading in? Am I showing up for what really matters? These are not questions reserved for old age or the final chapters of life. They are questions for now, because now is when real change can happen. Now is when course corrections are possible. Realignment begins with pausing. And in a world that glorifies hustle, slowing down can feel counterintuitive. But reflection isn't weakness, it's wisdom. When we pause, we create space to reconnect with our values. We remember who we are outside of our roles and responsibilities. We recognize what truly brings us joy, peace, and purpose, not just what brings us temporary pleasure or external validation. Sometimes we get so caught up in achieving that we forget to live. We forget to nurture relationships, to be present in small moments, to appreciate what we already have. And when we're out of alignment, even our successes feel heavy. We achieve the goal, but feel strangely empty. We tick all the boxes, but the sense of satisfaction is fleeting. That's not because we're broken. It's because we've strayed too far from what matters most to us. Alignment doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean every day is peaceful or that we have it all figured out. It means living in a way that reflects our values. It means choosing actions, habits, and relationships that support the person we want to become. It means having the courage to say no to the wrong things so we can say yes to the right ones. And the beautiful part is, it's never too late to realign. No matter how far off track we've drifted, we always have the ability to choose again. Every day gives us that chance. We can stop chasing things that don't serve us. We can reconnect with our why. We can let go of guilt or pride that keeps us stuck and instead move forward with clarity and intention. We often imagine life's turning points as dramatic, life-altering events. But sometimes the most powerful shift begins with a quiet decision. I want to live differently. That decision may not change everything overnight, but it begins a process, a journey back to wholeness, a return to meaning. And over time, that inner alignment changes the way we lead, love, work, and serve. So no, we don't have to reach the end to live right. We don't have to wait for the permission of success or the clarity of hindsight. We just have to pause long enough to listen, long enough to reflect, long enough to realign. And from that place of awareness, we can begin again, more honest, more intentional, more alive. Because the goal is not just to live long, but to live well. And living well begins the moment we choose to align our lives with what truly matters. For most of our lives, success is presented as the ultimate destination. We're told to set goals, work hard, and never stop striving until we reach the top, whether that top is a title, an income bracket, a degree, or a certain lifestyle. And while ambition is not wrong, the problem begins when success becomes the only thing we pursue, when every choice we make is filtered through the lens of achievement. We risk losing sight of the deeper reasons why we began the journey in the first place. The irony is that when success is treated as the goal, it often leads to burnout, emptiness, and disconnection. We sacrifice health, relationships, peace of mind, and even integrity, all in the name of progress. We celebrate business as a badge of honor and view rest as weakness. But this relentless chase eventually catches up with us because success on its own doesn't satisfy. It may impress others, it may open doors, but it cannot fill the quiet spaces within us that crave meaning, connection, and joy. What we start to understand, often after years of striving, is that real success flows naturally from a life rooted in purpose, authenticity, and contribution. When we focus first on living with integrity, treating people with respect, showing up fully, and using our gifts to serve others, success becomes something that follows, not something that must be forced. It shows up as a byproduct, not the prize. You see this in the people who carry a quiet confidence. They aren't loud about their achievements, yet they move through life with a sense of groundedness. Their success feels effortless, not because they haven't worked hard, but because they've worked on the right things, things that align with who they are and what they stand for. They've chosen to pursue fulfillment over fame, purpose over popularity, depth over speed. This shift in mindset is powerful. It takes the pressure off. It allows us to stop constantly performing and start simply being. We no longer need to chase approval or validation because we know we are building something real, something meaningful. We start asking better questions like, what kind of person do I want to be? What impact do I want to leave? How do I want people to feel when they're around me? These questions lead us to build a life that feels whole, not just one that looks good on the outside. When success is the goal, we may achieve a lot, but we're always at risk of feeling like it's not enough. There's always a higher bar, a new benchmark, a better title. But when success is a byproduct, we're not chasing something, we're attracting it, we're living in alignment, and that authenticity draws the right opportunities, relationships, and rewards our way. This isn't about lowering standards or giving up on dreams. It's about redefining the foundation on which we build them. Because a life well lived, one built on love, character, generosity, and intention, has a way of creating success that is sustainable, soulful, and deeply satisfying. It's the kind of success that can withstand adversity, the kind that lasts long after the applause has faded. So instead of asking, how do I become successful? A better question might be, How do I become someone worth following? Someone who serves, who inspires, who lives with conviction. When we focus on that, success becomes the echo, not the aim. It becomes the natural outcome of living in truth, leading with heart, and refusing to compromise what matters most. There's a common misconception about legacy, that it's something reserved for the famous, the wealthy, or the historically significant. We often think of legacy as a building with someone's name on it, a statue, a street, or a plaque. But the truth is, the most impactful and enduring legacies are rarely etched in stone. They are written into people, their hearts, their minds, and the way they live because of how someone else touched their life. You don't need a spotlight to build a legacy. You don't need a title or platform. What you need is intention, presence, a willingness to show up for others in a way that matters. The people who shape our lives the most are not always the loudest or the most decorated. They're the ones who made us feel seen when we felt invisible. They're the ones who listened without judgment, who believed in us when we doubted ourselves, who modeled a way of living that inspired us to be better. Think about the people who have changed you, the mentors, the friends, the parents, the teachers, the quiet leaders who never asked for recognition. Their legacy lives on in how you think, how you speak, how you love. And chances are they weren't trying to build a legacy. They were just living with compassion, integrity, and courage. That's the beauty of true influence. It flows from character, not ego. We often underestimate the power of small moments. A single conversation can change the trajectory of someone's life. A word of encouragement at the right time can be the difference between giving up and pushing forward. Legacy is not about being remembered by everyone. It's about making sure that the people around you know they mattered and that they were better because you were there. This kind of legacy isn't glamorous, but it's real. It's felt every day in families, classrooms, workplaces, and communities. It doesn't make headlines, but it makes all the difference. When you live with purpose and give with sincerity, you begin planting seeds that will grow long after you're gone. You may never see the full impact, but that doesn't make it any less powerful. And the truth is, people don't remember what we had. They remember how we made them feel. They remember the way we showed up when it was inconvenient, the way we stood up for what was right, the way we created space for others to thrive. These actions ripple outward in ways we can't always measure, and that's what makes them timeless. Your legacy is being written every day, not in what you post or what you earn, but in the relationships you build, the values you uphold, and the lives you quietly touch. The question isn't whether you'll leave a legacy, it's what kind. Will it be built on ego or empathy, on control or compassion, on success at all costs or significance through service? Legacy doesn't require perfection. It requires consistency. A consistent commitment to living in alignment with your deepest values. A consistent willingness to give, to love, to lift others. The kind of legacy that truly matters isn't built in a single moment. It's built in the million small choices you make each day to be kind, to be present, to do good, even when no one is watching. So don't wait for permission or recognition. Start where you are with what you have, because the greatest monument you can build is not a building, it's a better human being. And when you invest in people, you create something that will outlast any trophy, title, or inscription on a wall. You create a legacy that lives in others. And that is the kind of legacy that never fades in today's world. It's easy to believe that what defines us is what we accumulate: status, possessions, accolades, and achievements. Social media, advertising, and culture at large constantly feed us the message that success is about the things we own and how much attention we can gather. But the truth which many only discover later in life, is that we were never meant to be remembered for what we had. We are remembered for the kind of person we were. No one talks about the size of someone's house at their funeral. No one lists their bank account balance or the brands they wore. What people remember, what truly lingers, is how we treated others. Were we kind? Were we honest? Were we present? Did we lift people up or tear them down? Did we make others feel safe, valued, and seen? Those are the qualities that stay in the hearts of others long after we're gone. There's a quiet power in character that outshines any public success. While possessions fade, people remember integrity. While status is fleeting, the impression we leave through our words and actions echoes for years. Our attitude, our presence, our ability to show empathy in difficult moments, these are the things that define a life well lived. It's tempting to get caught up in the pursuit of more wealth, more fame, more validation. But the deeper questions are not about what we own, they're about who we are becoming. Are we becoming more patient, more generous, more forgiving? Are we becoming the kind of person we would admire, even if no one else ever noticed? That's what legacy is really about, not being remembered by many, but being remembered deeply by a few in a way that truly matters. When we shift our focus from having to being, our priorities change. We stop chasing image and start building substance. We stop performing and start connecting. We begin to see that the best version of ourselves isn't measured by external success, but by how aligned we are with our inner values. That alignment makes us magnetic, not in a flashy way, but in a meaningful way. People are drawn to authenticity. They're moved by someone who knows who they are and leads with love and integrity. And that transformation doesn't require wealth, fame, or education. It requires courage. The courage to stop trying to impress and start trying to impact. The courage to look inward and ask the hard questions. The courage to live in a way that feels right, even when it's not rewarded immediately. Because the person you become is far more valuable than the image you portray. This perspective liberates us. It frees us from the race to prove ourselves and allows us to rest in the truth that who we are at our core is enough. And from that place of peace, we can build lives of depth, not just display. We can create relationships built on truth, work built on meaning, and a legacy built on love. So when the noise fades and the dust settles, what will people say about you? Will they talk about your possessions or your presence, your riches or your reliability, your popularity or your principles? These are the questions that shape a meaningful life. Because at the end of it all, people won't remember the things you had. They will remember how you lived, how you made them feel, and who you chose to be. And that choice is made every single day, not just in the big moments, but in the small ones, in how you treat the stranger, in how you respond under pressure, in how you forgive, how you serve, how you love. That's where character is formed. That's where your real story is written. The real tragedy of life isn't that wisdom comes late. It's that we often had the truth in front of us all along. We just didn't listen. We weren't ready. We were too distracted, too busy, too caught up in noise, ambition, ego, or fear. It wasn't a lack of knowledge that held us back. It was our unwillingness to slow down and pay attention to what mattered most. The things we often come to regret are not mysteries revealed at the end. They're warnings and whispers we chose to silence for years. The most important truths about life, relationships, fulfillment, and character are often simple. We know that family matters more than fame. We know that peace is more valuable than pressure. We know that time is irreplaceable and love is irrefutable. And yet we ignore those truths. We tell ourselves we'll make time later. We'll slow down once we've made it. We'll fix the relationship once things settle, but the problem is life doesn't wait. Time doesn't pause until we're ready to change. We assume that clarity will come with age, but in reality, clarity often comes with attention. And attention is something we can choose. We can decide to be more present, to listen more deeply, to stop brushing off the small voice inside us that says, something's not right. Whether it's in our work, our relationships, or our own mental well-being, we usually feel the disconnect before we're willing to face it. The longer we ignore it, the louder it eventually becomes, sometimes in the form of burnout, regret, or crisis. But it doesn't have to be that way. We don't have to wait until the cost is high to make a change. If we can learn to listen sooner, to act on what we already know, we can avoid the pain of looking back and saying, I wish I had paid more attention. I wish I had acted when I had the chance. There's a moment in everyone's life when they realize the things they thought could wait can't. The phone call you've been meaning to make, the apology you've been putting off, the dream you keep telling yourself you'll chase someday. We think we have time until we don't. That's not meant to scare us. It's meant to wake us up. Because the truth is, we're not waiting for more time. We're waiting to prioritize what really matters. Wisdom isn't just about what we learn. It's about what we're willing to act on. And that means paying attention to the lessons life keeps trying to teach us. If something feels off, don't ignore it. If a relationship is fading, fight for it. If you're constantly chasing but never fulfilled, reevaluate what you're chasing. Life keeps giving us clues. The tragedy is not that we didn't have the answers, but that we ignored the questions for too long. Start paying attention now, not later. Look closely at how you spend your time, how you treat people, what kind of energy you bring into a room. These are the things that shape a life. These are the areas where change is possible and where truth is always trying to get your attention. In the end, the difference between a life of regret and a life of meaning is not in how much we knew. It's in how soon we decided to listen. Listen to your heart, your body, your relationships, your values. Don't let the most important lessons be the ones you realize too late. You don't need more knowledge. You need more attention, more courage, more willingness to act on what you already know is true. Because the longer we ignore what matters, the louder the silence becomes. We often think of time as something that simply moves forward, a neutral force we're either using well or letting slip away. But the reality is, time isn't just something we move through. It's something that's actively forming us. Every minute, every choice, every repeated action is contributing to the kind of person we are becoming. The danger is not in time moving too fast. It's in not realizing how powerfully it is shaping our character in the process. The habits you keep, the people you surround yourself with, the thoughts you entertain, all of these shape your future moment by moment. And what makes time so powerful is that it's both invisible and irreversible. You don't see it changing you in real time. You don't feel it building your mindset, your reputation, or your legacy, but it is. Every day, you're either becoming more aligned with your values or drifting further from them. And the scariest part is that it can happen so slowly, so subtly, that you don't even notice until you wake up one day and wonder, how did I get here? Time doesn't care if you're intentional or not. It will keep moving either way. But the shape it molds you into is determined by what you do with it. If you fill your time with resentment, comparison, distraction, or fear, those things will begin to define your inner world. But if you fill it with reflection, honesty, kindness, and purpose, your life will start to reflect that too. Time rewards what we consistently invest in. whether it's growth or decay. The problem is we often act like we have forever. We waste hours on things that drain us. We put off hard conversations. We let fear make decisions for us. We keep waiting for the right time to start living intentionally, forgetting that this moment is the right time, not because it's perfect, but because it's the only one we truly have. What we do now determines who we will be later. Who you are today didn't happen by accident. It's the result of thousands of tiny decisions, what you focused on, what you said yes or no to, what you allowed to shape your beliefs and actions. And who you become next will be shaped the same way. You can't change the direction of your life all at once, but you can shift the trajectory by making better use of the moments in front of you. Every moment spent with intention is a step toward becoming someone you'll be proud of. That's the power and the responsibility of time. It's not just a resource, it's a sculptor. It's carving out your legacy one action at a time. The question isn't, will time change you? The question is, are you choosing what it changes you into? And this doesn't mean you need to live every second in pressure or perfection. It means you live with awareness. You notice what's shaping you. You take ownership. You understand that your days are not just things to survive or get through. They are opportunities to grow, to impact others, and to build something meaningful. Time will shape you whether you're awake to it or not. So wake up. Look at your life. What are you becoming? Not in theory, but in reality. Are you proud of the direction you're heading in? If not, don't wait for a better year, a new job, or a dramatic sign. Begin now. Begin with the next hour, the next conversation, the next thought you choose to believe. Because time is not passive. It's not neutral. It's not waiting on you. It is moving, shaping, carving. And every moment you get is a tool in your hands. Use it well. Because while you can't control how much time you get, you can absolutely control what you let it turn you into.